What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you another community shoutcast for the Australian Amateur Cup. We're loading into round 1 of the Group B playoffs, so best of 1 series between Dota vs RNG up against Seb+Co. From what I hear from KQT, who isn't joining me until later on today, I believe he's at lunch at the moment, Dota vs RNG is a team he's been coaching. So particularly during the drafting stage, I could already see KQT's influence. We've got the first ban Invoker coming up from Dota vs RNG. Invoker, of course, a hero that KQT loves to ban in the first banning stage, just because he limits your draft and he excels in the early to mid stage of the game, where Trident traditionally are at their weakest, just because they always do tend to draft towards late game, do tend to draft fairly greedy lanes. Whereas the lineup from Seb+Co, we're going to be seeing a Batrider first ban alongside the Faceless Void. Very surprised to see Batrider considered in the first banning stage, just because Batrider used to be considered one of the most overpowered offlane heroes in the game. Just because, much like a Tidehunter, he's very difficult to deal with. He's got a lot of killing power in lane. He's very difficult to dislodge from that lane since he's got Firefly to escape. And if you were, for whatever reason, to completely shut him down in lane, he could always rotate into the jungle. And so we're going to be seeing a Tidehunter first pick coming up from Seb+Co. Very safe offlane pick, just because Tide is very difficult to deal with, especially in lower tier games where you need a bit more coordination to work around the Kraken Shell, as well as the Anchor Smash. So Tidehunter, one of the most powerful offlane heroes, personally my favorite pick as far as the offlane is concerned, just because he gives you a lot of consistency. Very difficult to deal with as far as the laning stage is concerned. If you leave him alone against the enemy carry, especially if they're a melee hero, he can zone them out. And offlane of the offlaner matchup, Tidehunter against most melee offlaners tends to come out on top, with the exception being heroes such as the Axe or the Timbersaw once Timbersaw picks up level 6. Tidehunter is also very good at recovering if he gets off to a poor start, since you're able to stack and clear out Ancients. This is something that no other offlaner can really make good use of, apart from maybe the Beastmaster. And so it gives you that guaranteed fallback mechanic. It means you should be guaranteed to get a Blink Dagger at least around the 14-minute mark, if not earlier, assuming you're playing efficiently on the Tidehunter and you're always making good use of when you can stack up Ancients and knowing when you're losing your lane and you need that contingency setup, and when you can play a bit more far forward. Tidehunter, of course, provides you an exceptional amount of fight once he gets that Ravage. One of the best team fight ultimates in the game. And so the team with the Tidehunter, even if their other two lanes happen to fall apart, particularly their safe lane, you've always got the fallback mechanic of having Tide come in, set up a fight with a Blink Ravage, and that could help turn things around. Tidehunter used to be considered, it still is considered to be an incredibly powerful offlane hero. His impact in TI4 was teams such as Vici Gaming and Newbie that always have the Zhao 8 offlane on the Tidehunter in order to make good use of the fact that Tide can, even if you're losing a game, he can help you stabilize. If you're winning a game, he helps you win more, just because you've got such a massive team fight ultimate that teams in the first 10 to 15, they just aren't prepared to deal with. The Dota vs RNG, going to be living up to their name. They opt to go for the Ogre Magi first pick. Ogre Magi used to be widely considered one of the best support heroes in the 8-2 patch alongside the Skywrath Mage. Him and the Skywrath had the highest pick and ban rate as far as supports were concerned. That's because Ogre Magi with the 7 base armor, incredibly durable as a tri-lane support, especially. If it's tri-v-tri and one team and tri-lane has the Ogre Magi, that tri-lane's much more likely to win, just because you have to ignore the Ogre. You can't choose to prioritize Ogre. He's too tanky. By the time you kill the Ogre, you're going to be trading very inefficiently, just because the other two heroes are going to be hitting you. If you ignore the Ogre, he's going to walk around and start smacking you, especially if he gets early boots into the Orb of Venom. You can poke and prod your supports and actually bring them down, especially with the Ignite Fire Blast damage. So Ogre provides you a lot of aggressive capability. The nerf that really has pushed him from being an A-class support more to a B-class support is the fact that Fire Blast range was nerfed by 125, so down from 600 to 475. It doesn't seem like that significant a nerf, but considering that Ogre Magi, very slow hero to begin with, and he's a hero that traditionally lacks a form of closing distance. You can use Ignite, but until you pick up the multicast, Ignite doesn't have that big of a range, especially when you consider how slow Ogre Magi is. So Ogre Magi, still a very powerful support, but he really excels in the tri-v-tri situation, or if you're forced to pick up boots first in the Ogre. That means that you have to draft a 5-position support that can't pick up the slack. Speaking of which, Seb+Co often go over the Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor is also a good support to deal with the Tide. The Malediction, especially if you choose to max it. I mean, you should only level Malediction if you're choosing to max it. It's a way to deal with the Tidehunter, since Kraken Shell won't debuff it, nothing will dispel or purge off the Malediction effect. And if you tri-lane him with another aggressive carry hero, such as the Juggernaut, the Malediction to the Blade Fury pretty much guarantees you a kill every single time. Now got a Viper pickup coming from Dota vs RNG. Viper, an exceptionally powerful 1v1 lane control mid hero. Can be used to completely shut down enemy mids such as the Ember Spirit or the Lycanthrope. Also works very well against other 1v1 lane dominators like the Outworld Devourer or the Razor. Razor v Viper is a pretty 50-50 matchup. It can actually go either way. Just because the Viper has to be conscientious of the fact he's laning against a Razor and has to build accordingly. So when you lane against a Razor as a Viper, you want to go for 2 points in the Poison Orb and 2 points in the Nether Toxin as quickly as possible. The rationale for that is you need the Poison Orb Snare to make sure that you can break the link. It also helps you man fight, since Razor actually has very low base attack speed compared to other heroes, since he's got god-awful stat growth. So it helps you man fight him and also helps you break that link. Once you break that link, you play incredibly aggressively and you utilize your Nether Toxin. Even if he gets a few ticks of that static charge, of that static link, it's not going to be enough to counteract the Nether Toxin. So you should be able to win that matchup. Otherwise, you usually want to go for the max corrosive skin build. Just because Viper, he excels at being the anchor the rest of your team can pivot around here because he's so durable and because he provides such a massive amount of damage just from his toolkit. The team is always forced to play around the enemy Viper. They can't focus fire him just because if he goes for the mech and max corrosive skin build, he's going to be damn nigh impossible to kill, especially as far as the support's concerned. And if he picks up the mech, they actually can't afford to focus him. But at the same time, because he has the mech and because he does so much damage, they kind of have no other option. Dota vs RNG, going for two very powerful and very tanky cores, the Bristleback and the Viper, an excellent counterpick coming up from Seb+Co, the Necrophos. Necrophos destroys these very tanky cores because you've got the Heartstopper aura, which takes a percentage of the max HP per second. Not only that, you've got the Reaper Scythe. And so once you get the Agnum Scepter and level 3 Reaper Scythe, once you're below 40% HP, you're dead. And not only are you dead, now with the buffs to the Reaper Scythe, you're dead for 30 more seconds, and if he's got the Agnum Scepter, you can't buy back. So Necrophos, exceptionally powerful hero at pretty much every stage of the game. The only stage where I'd say that the Necrophos is at its weakest is probably going to be around the late game stage, before you move into the ultra late game where a game can be decided by a buyback, just because Necrophos needs a lot of farm to reach that point, and that's usually around the mark where enemy carries have more DPS than you have heal, and they also have BKB, so they can ignore the vast majority of your damage. Necrophos is still an incredibly powerful hero just because he flash farms very efficiently, much like a Shadow Fiend. If you have a good laning start, you could quickly snowball under control, especially if your supports are stacking up neutral camps for you in the jungle. We've got the Silencer and an Ancient Apparition ban coming out from Seb+Co. So they're banning out teamfight oriented heroes. Ancient Apparition is a fantastic counterpick to deal with Tide, just because you've got the Chilling Touch, which provides magic damage, and so Tide's Kraken Shell on the Anchor Smash, it doesn't really account for the Chilling Touch, and so you actually can right-click down the Tide, which is very rare. You also have Silencer, who can zone out Tide quite effectively, not so much with the Curse of the Silent, but more with the Glaives, because Tide Hunter, that pure damage will disregard the Anchor Smash debuff or the Kraken Shells. It's a great way to poke and prod the Tide Hunter and force him out of lane, as well as the fact that the Global Silence, every time you go when you pop Global, so Tide can't counter-initiate with that Ravage, provides you an exceptionally powerful teamfight initiation. And it usually means that you should be able to pick off high priority targets like the Witch Doctor and Necrophos. Silencer also is a hard counter to Witch Doctor. All you have to do is wait until you see the Voodoo Restoration, the Death Ward coming out from Witch Doctor, press R, instantly cancels it, makes it very easy for you to deal with the Witch Doctor. You've also got the Axe pickup coming up from Dota vs RNG. So Axe, much like Necrophos, a very powerful execution hero. They're good at just being able to instantly burst somebody down regardless of their total HP, so long as they're below a certain threshold. So Necrophos is below 40% with the level 3 and plus Agnum Scepter Reaper Scythe. Axe, if you're below 250, 350, or 450, you're just instantly dead. It doesn't matter if you've got Templar's Refraction on, or even Abaddon's Borrowed Time. You can't save yourself from the dunk, and so Axe is very effective at being able to pick off particularly squishy supports, since that Cutting Blade attack speed and movement speed buff is incredibly underestimated. It's basically a free stampede on demand that you can constantly refresh if the fight is going into your hand. I believe Bloodlock was telling me yesterday that Axe in the Group A playoffs, at any rate, he had something like a 77% pick or ban rate, and he had a 100% win rate. So every single game he was picked up, his team was guaranteed to win, just because I suppose in those lower tier bracket, it's very difficult for your team to be able to coordinate and effectively fight around the Axe, just because you've got three very durable core heroes coming out from Dota vs RNG. You also have the Ogre Magi as an incredibly tanky support, probably the tankiest support you go for, and now we're going to be seeing the Anti-Mage. So the strategy coming out from the boys in Dota vs RNGs, the Viper's going to go mid, Bristleback off lane. We're going to see the Ogre Magi Anti-Mage dual lane with the Axe jungle. Axe could actually even jungle in the enemy jungle, so that way he provides a lot of assistance to the Bristleback. So this is a very KQT style draft. You've got the Gatekeeper Mule combination of Gatekeeper being the offlaner and Mule being the Axe in the enemy jungle. That way provides you that kill power, especially since you're going to assume the enemy team, they wanted lane an aggressive tri-lane to deal with the Anti-Mage. You never want to give Anti-Mage a safe tri-lane and leave him against an offlaner. And Tide Hunter, while against the melee hero he does fairly well, Anti-Mage is just going to burn off all his mana, make it very difficult for Tide to show himself in lane. And now we see a Bloodseeker pick coming up from Seb+Co. So I'm assuming in mid lane, Bloodseeker, Necrophos tri-lane in conjunction with the Witch Doctor Jakiro, and what appears to be a Tide Hunter off lane. You can also mix it up and have a Bloodseeker tri-lane, but the issue of Bloodseeker is he's very dependent on snowballing early. He's a very timing-specific carry hero, and he's also dependent on getting a lot of levels, and you want to get level 2 Rupture. The level 1 Rupture is actually been quite nerfed compared to what it used to be, as the base damage from it is a fairly small amount. So nowhere near as potent as it used to be. Bloodseeker in the mid lane matchup, you usually tend to max out the Bloodthirst. It gives you a lot more consistency and it gives you a much more powerful lane. It means you can play incredibly aggressively, so you're going to be going for Blood Rage at 1, most likely Blood Right at 2 if you want to play a bit more passive, or you could choose to completely skip Blood Right until level 4. Blood Right's going to be your only form of CC that Bloodseeker has available, but it's not really necessary until you get the Rupture. Once you get Rupture, that's when the Blood Right, unless of course if you're very good at landing them, as when it's going to be very effective. So we're going to be seeing Zaruch from RNG, going to be the offlane Bristleback. No safety will actually be given to him. That could be a huge mistake. We've got Stan and Rose going to be playing the Viper, fairly talented Viper player from the games I've seen him play. Yoshi going to be the Axe in the jungle, so the 4 position. Looks like he's actually got the safety ward, so he could be rotating to the enemy jungle, which is what I'm presuming he's going to do, or otherwise he could look to aggressively ward, as Axe very durable at level 1, especially with the Ring of Protection build. He could also look to farm his own jungle. The weakness of that is if they decide to lane an aggro or tri-lane, it does leave you quite vulnerable, and Bloodseeker, of course, works reasonably well against Axe, just because Axe is always going to be reasonably low HP, farming in the jungle, so Bloodseeker's getting 3 Bloodthirst charges. Nigerian going to be the 1 position, so he's going to be the carry anti-mage. And over on the boys, and Seb+Co, we've got Happy, going to be the 1 position Necrophos, Bubblegun, going to be the 2 as the Bloodseeker, Adobe Reader, going to be the Jakiro as the 5, and my document's going to be the 4 as the Witch Doctor. Looks like Happy's going to secure the bounty already. Probably should give that to his supports, to be honest, just because it ensures that your support's able to get their boots early on. It means that they're going to get levels that they're otherwise not going to get, just because they're constantly going to be EXP starved as far as the lane's concerned, unless they're very efficient with stacking and pulling. Got fucking Damo, going to be the Titan's in the offlane, so he's going to be a stand-in. He's got the safety ward already at the ready. Of course, the drawback of this is when you start with a safety ward, you want to place the ward before the creep wave spawns, because otherwise it's very obvious where you're going to go ward. Especially since you also have to go for the creep block, especially if the supports are already trying to pressure you. But it looks like in this case, fucking Damo going to be going for a very obvious safety ward placement, unless he's going for the pull block. There we go, he sees it. RNG Og, he should know that this is there. He should look to D-ward. It doesn't have the sentry ward available. But RNG actually opting to go for the blink at 1, just in case if he was going against the tri-lane. Probably should have waited to steal his first ability, just because since he's left alone against the Tide, probably would have been better if he went for the mana break. He could play very aggressively against the Tide, burn off as much of his mana as possible, and since Tide without mana actually really can't do anything. So Clockwork Goblin's another matchup where Tide actually has a very difficult time, just because on paper Tide and against a melee offlaner does very well, but against a hero that's dependent on controlling mana, such as the Clockwork, if you get 1 or 2 good cog blocks off, very difficult for Tide to be able to contest the Clockwork on lane. So we've actually got a quick pause coming through as RNG looks like one of their players needs to restart stream. So as far as at the lane stage is concerned, Viper should be having a pretty good time against Necrophos. Necrophos doesn't have anywhere near the amount of base damage Viper has, especially with that Poison Ore and that Nether Toxin. Looks like Rose is already off to a pretty good start. So Viper should actually opt to go for 2 points in Nether Toxin in this case, just to further ensure that you're able to out-CS. The 1 point can be more than enough if you've got a lot of experience, but if you want to really make sure that you're never going to miss any CS, and more importantly get those crucial denies, going for that 2nd point can be quite valuable. But after that, you really do need to max out that Corrosive Skin, especially when dealing against a Necrophos, just because he does do mostly magic damage. Apart from the Heartstopper Aura, which of course is pure damage, looks like he has actually opted for it at level 1, so it's a fairly standard skill build coming out from the Necrophos. You usually want to go for Heartstopper at 1. Death Pulse at 1 is only if you think you're at risk of dying after playing very aggressively against, in which case the heal can actually turn things around. Otherwise, Heartstopper at 1 is always going to be a lot more effective. No safety ward from Zaruch, he should be having his work cut out for him. Bristleback's a fairly effective offlane hero in the sense that because you're very durable, they don't want to engage on you, but at the same time, you never really want to leave things up to chance, especially since Witch Doctor can always choose to go for the Melodic, actually holding onto a skill point, and we are going to be seeing a tri-lane Bloodseeker, so in this case, Bloodseeker's going to transition more into a conventional hard carry role, and so he might choose to go for something along the lines of even like a Mantis style, Hand of Midas early on, sorry, not the Mantis style. Then go towards something like Radiance. Radiance used to be a very effective pickup on Bloodseeker before his rework. Nowadays, not as effective, just because you actually have to apply the Blood Rage to yourself, and that means that you're at risk of getting bursted down because it does amplify damage you receive. And so Bubblegun actually holding onto a skill point. So very interesting decision making coming up from the boys. And Seb+Co, I suppose, against the Bristleback, you might as well go for Blood Rage at 1. Blood Right isn't really going to do too much. And the Thirst, I suppose, it can be useful if you're laning against the Bristleback on your own. You need that extra base damage. But since you already have more base damage than him, and Zaruch doesn't have anything like a Quelling Blade, should be off to a pretty good start. So fucking Damo on the offlane as a Tide looks like he's actually off to a reasonably solid start. He's almost got level 2 picking up. There's very few denies. There's only 1 deny coming out from Nigerian so far. When you're playing the carrier hero in the tri-lane against the offlaner, you always want to prioritize and make sure that you're getting these denies as well. You don't want to let the creep equilibrium push out, so you want to make sure that you always kill the range creep last, that you try to deny your range creep as quickly as possible. and to make sure that the creep wave doesn't push forward. Because at the moment, this is at a pretty good spot as far as the anti-mage is concerned. It means that if Tide wants to go for CS, he's actually quite exposed. You've got gank attempts coming from that angle. He could potentially have a mid-rotation come through. He's got this much distance he has to travel before he's in the safe zone of his tower. So that means that he's quite exposed. He does have that safety ward, although it's a very conventional safety ward placement, usually there and there. These tend to be the most common. Some unconventional safety ward placements, such as there, or even there. The objective behind a safety wall is not to be dewarded for as long as possible and to still provide you vision to be relevant. So this is very conventional. It provides you a vision of every potential gank path coming in through the jungle in order to gank a fucking Damo. But of course, Og, I believe he actually spotted the safety ward placement, or at least he should have. But that being said, there's no sentry ward available, and Yoshi still hasn't placed his ward, so he's kind of just sitting there on that ward. Bit of a misplay coming up from him, just because it costs you nothing to just walk over, drop that ward, especially as the jungling axis, because you want to make sure that you can guarantee a top run, especially picking up bounty runs for the axe helps accelerate your jungle. I believe there's actually a jungling axe strategy that revolves around you getting a bottle very early on, so you just start with the stealth shield, attack and clear a medium camp, suicide yourself after buying a bottle, and then from that point on you jungle the same way as a regular axe would, going for the tranquil boots and blink dagger, only you've now got the bottle to provide yourself basically infinite sustain. So that's a very risky strategy, but when it pays off, you do get a drastic increase in PM, so you're able to pick up something like a 6 to 7 minute blink dagger as opposed to the usual 8 to 9 minute. I believe Mule, the axe player for the team, he's usually got it down to 8.5 minutes and 9 minutes. So fairly quickly, unless he gets a kill, in which case you could find it even by the 6 minute mark. One game he went something like 13 for 0 in the first 12 minutes. You really don't want to give Trident Axe. They've got a very experienced axe player. They also like to draft axe and play around them a lot, so they've got a huge amount of experience as far as the axe is concerned. Now got Nigerian reconnecting back into the game, so hopefully it looks like he's going to be disabling his spam filter. Stop sending out the spam messages to all the Nigerian princes. There we go. It's going to go back into going for some CS fucking demo. Going to be backing himself away because he's left against the Ogre Magi. Ogre doesn't really have that much poke capacity, just because as a melee hero, especially against a Tide should be having a pretty good time in this matchup. So fucking Damo, because Nigerian's been playing fairly passively and because he went from Blink at 1 to the Mana Break, it doesn't seem like that big of a difference from the strategic level, but the fact that if he went for Mana Break, him and Og can actually play incredibly aggressively, and fucking Damo might even be completely out of mana at this point, forced to blow through his clarities, because you have the Ignite to set up for the Mana Break right clicks, especially if Og opts to go for a very early Orb of Venom. Like Yoshi, playing very aggressively in the jungle. You usually don't want to go for hard camps until you've picked up level 4 to level 5. You need that level 2 counter helix, and you usually need the Tranquil Boots to sustain, so that way it doesn't cripple your jungle. Could be seeing some jungle inefficiency. The objective behind axing the jungle is you constantly want to stack and clear out camps. You never want to go for a camp unless it's stacked. The exception, of course, being hard camps. The troll camp, of course, is excellent for you to clear early on because they don't actually have enough HP or enough damage to really threaten you. And once you pick up your tranquil boots, you constantly want to drop your tranquil boots so that way you don't break them. So you're able to continually maintain your HP sustain. So once you clear the camp, then you go in, pick up the tranquil boots, regen back up to full, and that does provide you a fairly efficient form of jungling because you never have to go back to the fountain. Bubblegum opted to go for a point and blood right early on. I can understand the rationalization behind it, but I suppose the point and blood thirst probably would be a bit more effective. It does give you a lot more poke capacity, just because blood right, not really going to be too useful against the bristleback, even though you do have to follow through. It's just you don't have enough damage, so even if you get a perfect combo with the Ice Path, Dual Breath into the blood right, Zoroark is still just going to waddle himself away. It's what Bristleback does best, and Bristleback, of course, opting to go for the early point in the Bristleback passive. Bubblegum, good recognition coming up from him, choosing to go for the Magic Stick. Adobe Reader also going for the Magic Stick, so both these heroes playing off to a good start, especially when they're laning against the Bristleback and Bubblegum, doing everything he can to try to go for these denies. So controls to creep Equilibrium, although unfortunately Zoroark, he's got a lot of free experience. You never want to creep Equilibrium to be that far forward. This is around the perfect area for the offlane on the dire side, because you're so close to the tower, they can't play aggressively against you. And because you're always going to be within EXP range, you're just going to sit back, passively farm, leech a lot of experience, maybe go for a last hit down there with the Cool Spray, and once you pick up your Warpath or once the support rotates, that's when you play aggressively. The name of the game when you're playing the offlane is you have to know when to be very passive and when to be very patient, and when you can play very aggressively. So that means you're usually going to be spending a lot of time watching the map. Once you see the supports are missing, that's when you play very aggressively against the enemy carry. Otherwise, you can't afford to play passive once the supports rotate, because then you're giving the enemy carry a lot of free farm for nothing. So you always want to make sure that you can contest them and push the limits of when you can be aggressive, when you can't. Nigerian and Og, I believe he should actually just go to play very aggressively. Fire Blast him, ignite him, have Nigerian smack him, burn all his mana, force fucking Damo out of the lane. Because if you continue to play very passively, Nigerian, he's going to get shut down quite heavily. Because unlike the Bristleback, fucking Damo, he's never at risk of dying, and he's actually playing very far forward. So he could actually be punished. He's also opted to go for a point in Gush very early on, so indicative of the fact that he wants to play very aggressively. Otherwise, you want to go for the second point in the Anchor Smash, and in the Anchor Smash and Kraken Shell. Usually, if you're playing very defensively, you choose to completely forego Gush until you pick up level 7, level 8 in that case. Once you go into these fights, there we go. They should now look to play very aggressively against fucking Damo. He doesn't have enough burst to be able to deal with the anti-mage, but here comes Yoshi. We could be seeing first blood here. Fucking Damo, lots of time in Berserker's Core. Nigerian going ham on the fucking Damo, gets fire blast into the ground. Nigerian is able to pick up first blood. So he's off to a good start. So this, of course, is the issue of playing very far forward in the offlane. He did have that safety ward, so he actually shouldn't have gone and ganked there. Yoshi just ran right through the jungle defenders. He should have been spotted with that rotation. We're also got a very aggressive observer ward being placed. This could actually be placed slightly far forward, just so that way you've got complete vision of where supports could be rotating in. Rose just barely brings down Necrophos, going to waddle himself away. Gives a massive amount of damage over to Bubblegum while this is happening, but the Salve should be able to quickly mitigate that. So another reason why Bloodseeker is now a lot more powerful than it used to be is the fact that Bloodthirst, it scales it linearly, so there's no flat cutoff. Before, you had to be below 50% HP before Thirst would actually give you damage. Bloodbreak coming through on Zaruch. Zaruch just waddles himself away, and so Bubblegum just looks a little bit silly. Wastes a bit of mana, pushes the creep wave forward, takes a fair amount of damage, so he's going to be forced back. And Zaruch, he's going to have a lot of free experience from this. Adobe Reader with the Liquid Fire Spam, I suppose you can play very aggressively against the enemy offlaner, so that's going to be the name of the game. Just because Bristleback doesn't have a way to really interrupt them from taking his tower. He doesn't have a way to effectively clear out the creep wave, especially without feeding them a lot of magic stick charges. And Adobe Reader, he's basically invincible against Bristleback at this point. You've got so many charges that if he plays aggressively against you, you've already got 9 to work with. And by the time he got you low enough to be to the kill point, he should be able to bring him down. Looks like Happy just sights down Rose. So Rose is getting a little bit too cocky though. You always have to be very cautious. He's actually gone for a very unconventional, very old school Viper build. Go for 4 points in the Poison Orb. You never need more than 2 points in the Poison Orb unless you're playing incredibly passively and you need the additional points because you don't think that you're going to provide that much damage with a Nether Toxin. The second point in the Poison Orb is going to be the most efficient just because it accounts for your very low mobility. Good Ice Path coming from Adobe Reader. Not turning himself around, but he should be taking death there. Zaruchi finds 2. Just as I talked about them being invincible because of the magic stick charges, Zaruchi actually choosing not to skill up the Warpath. Had he skilled up Warpath, maybe with a little bit more damage. You still have the TP out coming in from the Witch Doctor, so he's going to be fine. And Bristleback's a fantastic counter pick to supports like the Witch Doctor and the Jakiro, because Witch Doctor's got very low armor, and to the Bristleback Quill Sprays, they stack up very quickly, especially since Bristleback, all he does is physical damage, and if he goes for that point in the Nasal Goo, should be able to smack you around. Jakiro, he's good. Bristleback's good against Jakiro because Jakiro is very slow. He's very slow to turn, very slow to cast his abilities. And so it's easy for Bristleback just to walk to the side, dodge the Ice Path, play very aggressively against them, and Jakiro doesn't have any way to really respond. Happy pops that Invis Room. He's going to be the one going on mech duty, and Necrophos is probably one of the best mech carriers in the game. Just because if you get the Reaper Scythe off, it instantly heals you back. It recharges all the mana you lose. You get about 500 mana every time you use that Reaper Scythe with the 4 points to status. Actually, I think you get 600 now. Yeah, you get 600 mana from scything down the target, so it gives you enough to be able to discount your Reaper Scythe. So you get a free Reaper Scythe effectively and a free mech use. So it's a very effective way for you to be able to keep your team sustained. Since Viper, he's also a very powerful mech carrier, but the issue of Viper going from mech is the fact that because Viper has such a limited mana pool, and the mech costs 225, if you go for a mech on a Viper, you have to be very conscientious of your mana usage. You usually need some kind of mana sustain item like a stick or a ring of a kilo, or in some cases both, just to make sure that you actually have a way to use your other abilities, such as the Viper Strike and the Poison Orb, because Poison Orb does chew through a massive amount of your mana. Especially since Viper doesn't really have that much int growth. He's usually dependent on the passive int stat growth, just because you're not going to be building any items that give you much intelligence, apart from the stats you get from the mech, as well as the magic stick. My documents looks like he's going to be going towards the magic wand of his own. Probably should have picked up the stick first, just because the stick is going to give you benefit, whereas the recipe doesn't give you anything, so you might as well wait to buy the recipe last. Offlane tower should be taking a fall. One more Liquid Fire, especially with the creep wave smacking it, should be enough to be able to bring it down. It is unfortunately in deny range. And looks like Zaruch going to be going towards the Vanguard to the Crimson Guard build. Well, we are going to be seeing a hand of Midas picked up on Bubblegun. Really should have looked to pick up at Boots first, especially since he wasn't able to... Oh yeah, I suppose it was an 8-minute hand of Midas. It's not too bad. But when you're laning against a Bristleback, you usually do want to go for Boots reasonably quickly, just because otherwise it's going to snag you into the ground. Nigerian, I look away from him from an instant, and he instantly goes, and he plays very aggressively against the Tide, so good optimization coming up from him, choosing to go for more points in the mana break, just because you're laning against a melee offlaner that's dependent on his mana pool. How do you deal with him in that case? You control him by burning off his mana, and anti-mage's mana break, especially early on, does give you a surprisingly high amount of damage. Got Rose. Actually, he's off to a good start as far as last hit's concerned, but Necrophos is actually starting to pull through. And Rose, interesting to see what item he chooses to go for. He's actually opted to go for Face Boots. Not really a big fan of Face Boots of Viper, to be perfectly honest, just because I feel like Viper, the way you should play Viper, especially since he's gone for so many points in the Poison Orb, you don't really need that extra mobility. Now going to rotate, then should be able to find an easy kill on Bubble Gun. Adobe Reader could have gone for the Ice Path, fortunately was on cooldown. Now he's going to be taking a death as Rose. Should be able to go ham and pick off an easy solo kill on Adobe Reader. By the time he turns around to go for the Ice Path, he's dead. Rose should be able to disjoint this. There we go, one more right click. He can actually turn around and fucking damn if he really wants to as well. Ravage going to be forced. Rose should be taking death, the Reaper side coming through. The good rotations coming in from Seb+Co, both fucking demo and happy. But of course, the drawback to this is you get one kill, and while that's happening, Nigerian's off to a fantastic start. They don't have anything to deal with Nigerian. He actually probably even shouldn't have gone for Treads there. Could have opted to completely rush the Battle Fury, in which case he would be pretty close to it. He actually would have finished it at this point had he chose not to go for Treads. But that being said, the Treads does give you a lot more lane sustain. It gives you an ability to play very aggressively, especially against melee offlane heroes. Bloodseeker could be taking a death here. He's choosing to go for the max blood right build. He's got the Rupture available, so he's going for a very gank-heavy Bloodseeker. Actually turn around and stand his ground if he really wanted to, since Og can't walk into the blood right, especially with that 475 Fire Blast range. Bubblegun could have got a lot of free right clicks against Nigerian, but I suppose that being said, he doesn't want to give away, he doesn't want to lose all his mana. So Nigerian, looks like Yoshi should be able to find his Blink Dagger, so we are going to be seeing a 10-minute Blink Dagger, not the fastest Blink, but not too bad all things considered. Fire Blast comes through and Bubblegun, be the disengage. Ice Blast comes around, he can actually turn this. Og doesn't have enough mana to be able to turn around with another Fire Blast. Bubblegun hasn't really been too active with his Blood Rage usage. It looks like Adobe Reader, he meant to sell Bubblegun, unfortunately sells himself. So saying, that's for taking my last hits in the lane, even though I could have carry. I'm going to sell him in front of me now. Adobe Reader, going to be looking a little bit silly for that. Happy, he's got that mech available, so he should actually bottle charge Bubblegun. Because if he bottle charges Bubblegun, they can look to play aggressively against Nigerian. Rupture will be able to hold him in place. Bloodseeker is a fairly effective counter to the anti-mage in the early stages, because you could chase him down even if he blinks. Got that Thirst mobility. And if you are able to pin him with the blood right, then anti-mage is dead in the water, especially with that pure damage. Yoshi, very close towards fucking demo. He will be the finisher. His Blink Dagger, he can actually just sell his Iron Branch. Actually very surprised he opted to start with the Iron Branch. You usually don't want to start with the Iron Branch when you're jungling with an X. You don't get that much benefit from it. You might as well put that extra 50 gold towards your Blink Dagger. Now that the push line of Seb+Co really coming into effect, you've got the Jakiro's able to continually apply pressure with that liquid fire spam. Blink Dagger now available, so Yoshi, he's going to be the one to try to set up some plays if they want to defend this, but looks like they're going to be sacking that lane. So Nigerian now rotating into the jungle. Doesn't have the Battle Fury yet, should be having it fairly soon. All he needs is the additional, Claymore, since he's got the Broadsword, and then pick up the Voidstone. So if he hadn't gone for the Preds, would have had it around the 12 to 13 minute mark. Zaruch, meanwhile, doing some split push. Got some instant rotations coming in, so we are going to be seeing a potential pick off on Zaruch, as he is reasonably low, especially when you're dealing with the Reaper side coming up from the Necrophos. And Necrophos choosing not to upgrade his boots, going straight into the Aghanim Scepter. Usually Treads on Necrophos is very effective, just because you could do a lot of tread switching with that Sadist regen. And Necrophos, he does actually hit reasonably hard, so the attack speed is fairly nice. That being said, if you can finish the Aghanim Scepter fairly early, could be quite powerful, but the issue of going for Aghanim Scepter as your first big item in the Necrophos is it's a very late game item. It doesn't actually give you that much value in the early stages of the game, since the HP percentage advantage of the upgraded Reaper sides isn't going to be that significant. They don't have a big enough HP pool for you to really want to execute them at 40%. If you can execute them at 40%, one more Death Pulse is usually going to be enough to push them to that lethal range anyway, and so you'd be better off going for a much more, unless he's choosing to go for a Bloodstone, in which case Bloodstone Necrophos, you want to go with the Soul Ring first, although I suppose in this case you do have that mech. The Bloodstone and Necrophos, very powerful pickup. Of course, the issue of it is I'm missing kills all across the map. It looks like Yoshi is able to dunk him down. The advantage, of course, of the Bloodstone is the fact that it does give you an incredible amount of sustain. Necrophos isn't really the greatest Bloodstone carrier, but the nice thing about it is if the game does go late, which it often does when you do drop that Necrophos, it gives you the ability for you to not have to rely on your buyback. Yoshi goes for a fantastic 3-man call, should be able to dunk down Bubblegun, should be able to do so. Adobe fleeing for his life, unfortunately bad dunk from Yoshi, ensures Adobe should be able to disengage from this, otherwise it could have killed Happy as well. Looks like Og in his frustration, so frustrated at Yoshi missing that dunk, Fire Blast the creep saying, look what you made me do, actually choosing to max the Ignite. I've noticed this now that the Fire Blast has been nerfed. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this. I feel like with the rework to multicast, you really should be maxing out the Fire Blast, even though Ignite gives you more consistent damage. With the fact that it's now 40% at level 1 multicast, you're almost always going to get higher average damage by maxing Fire Blast than you are by maxing Ignite. The nice thing about maxing Ignite, I suppose, is you do have a higher window to make error, just because you've got the higher cast range of the Ignite, so you don't have to be as aware of your positioning and having to rely on that 475 Fire Blast range. Good recognition coming up from Og, actually ward blocking off the enemy engines to shut down Tide's recovery, so fucking Damo. Not going to be getting that At Blink Dagger around the 14-minute mark. Looks like it's going to be around the 16 to 17-minute Blink Dagger, but now we've got a 13-minute, 14-minute Battle Fury. It's a good farm rate coming up from Nigerian, especially since he went for the Battle Fury, for the Treads first. So Treads into Battle Fury around the 14-minute mark. That's actually an exceptional amount of farm as far as he's concerned. 45 GPM, so he's off to a pretty good start. Might look to go for the Vladimir's offering, because he's going to be spending a lot of time smacking creeps in the jungle. So Venado, he'd be very proud watching this. The anti-mage is smacking creeps in the jungle, making sure to just smack creeps for as long as possible before he's got his core items. We are going to be seeing a Yashi build coming from Rose. Rose really doesn't like going mech on the Viper, and I think this is a massive mistake. Og's going to be taking a death there, as that double damage Bloodseeker just cuts him to the ground. Just because Viper's one of the best, if not the best, mech carrier in the game as far as non-intelligent heroes are concerned. Just because you have so much innate damage from your toolkit, because you've got that Nethertoxin built as well as the Poison and the Viper Strike, you don't really need any more damage. If you wanted more damage, you might as well draft a much more aggressive mid lane hero, like a Templar Assassin, like a Queen of Pain. As a Viper, you want to pick up items that give you a lot of utility for your team, because if you max Corrosive Skin, they can't kill you. If you can't kill a Viper, Viper sure as hell can kill you. Speaking of which, Yoshi, this time he lands a dunk. Looks like Seb+Co, they're able to deny that tower, so Adobe Reader, shutting that down. Reaper Scythe Blaster not going to do anything to Zaruch. Zaruch just waddles away. Very ambitious Reaper Scythe. I suppose he expected the rest of his team to follow up, maybe try to set up some plays, but they didn't really have anything to be able to bring him down. So Zaruch is going to waddle himself away temporarily, going to heal up. Looks like he's going to be the one going towards the Crimson Guard, and Crimson Guard in the pre-20-minute mark for a Bristleback. Absolutely absurd. You can't do anything to Bristleback. He's basically Lord Gaben. He will smite you with the power of 1,000 suns. And you don't have enough damage to deal with him. So Bristleback, because he's gone for these early points in goo, can play very aggressively, and fucking damage is going to be forced to use the Ravage if he wants to keep himself alive. While that happens, Nigerian brings down my documents. Let's take that Microsoft Word, he says. Happy turns around with that mech charge and fucking Damo backing himself away. So because there are 3 heroes there, Og as well as Aruj choosing to play it very safe. They know that they're already in the lead. There's no point in them having to throw, just because they know that the lineup coming from Seb+Co is very mid-game oriented. 5 balls coming through from Og. Ravage now comes in, catches out 2. Og could be taking a death there, especially that death pulse. Yoshi comes in with a good 3-man call. This actually could turn this. He's inside the macro power, unfortunately. They have to execute Happy. Isn't able to get that dunk off because of that mech charge. Yoshi's going to take a death there. Rose comes in from the side, throws a few more right clicks, brings down Happy, actually turns around, and Happy's going to back himself away. Rose, you got to finish off your food. You can't actually leave it on your plate. There you go. He cleans his plate. W really should be taking a death. No mana, no mercy as Rose and that Viper. Don't even need that Viper Strike. Just right click him. Viper strikes him just out of spite, I suppose. You might as well. Backs himself away. Cool guys don't need to look at explosions. And fucking Damo what backs away. Had he not used that Viper Strike, he could have actually killed fucking Damo as well had he stuck around. Just because fucking Damo didn't TP back home and walked away. So you never want to... You want to be as efficient as possible with your spell usage. You don't want to overkill targets. Unless you just want to do it out of spite. My documents could be taking a death. There's nothing you could really do. Because throughout that cast, he actually should have turned around and cast. He was right next to that range creep. Would have actually kept him alive. Never mind, it's his own range creep, so that would have saved him. Rose should be the final kill against my documents. Fucking Damo's gonna be taking a death as well. Rose locked in place with the rupture. You might as well stand your ground and fight at this point. Especially with Yoshi coming in. Yoshi unfortunately whiffs that Berserker's Call. The AoE of Berserker's Call on that cosmetic is actually slightly bigger than it is. So you have to keep that in mind. You want to be better safe than sorry with that. I'm not too sure why Valve did that. They gave you the AoE. Rose, looks like Yoshi, he's so mad at Og's Ignite that he Berserker Calls creeps. He's going for the manly axe build, so no points in the battle hunger. Looks like he's going to be the one going towards the Vanguard. I highly disagree with this item pickup, just because you've already got the Crimson Guard coming out from the Bristleback. Axe should really be going towards something like the Blade Mail, because you have so much uncontrolled AoE coming up from Seb+Co. You've got Death Pulse, you've got Macropire, you've got Blood Right, and you have Ravage. That's a massive amount of uncontrolled AoE that you're going to be reflecting back at them. Could go for a blink in, catch that Bubblegum as well as Happy. He's going to try to dunk down Bubblegum so he can't utilize that Blood Rage regen. Happy, fleet for his life, pops that mech. Adobe Reader takes the fall. So Adobe Reader not going to be able to do too much. Fortunately, did not read the user manual. My documents standing his ground, fantastic death wall. Should be able to bring down Og, never mind. That 7 base armor too high, taking literally no damage. And Rose, kind of just walking around, eats a lot of damage he shouldn't have. Could be taking a death there, especially if fucking Damo has a blink. Fortunately, he doesn't. So Rose just going to TP on out there. Waits until he's at high ground to TP, and my documents, even if he did see him, he wouldn't have had time to really use that paralyzing cask, so he's able to wall himself back to base. And Zaruch, he should have his Crimson Guard coming out towards him fairly shortly. Looks like Yoshi, he is going towards that Vanguard. Vanguard, if you want to go for a Vanguard, get it in the first 8 minutes, or don't bother going for it at all, unless if you choose to go for the Crimson Guard. But in this case, you already have a Crimson Guard. So the reason why I have such a hatred of Vanguard is after the 20-minute mark, it becomes completely worthless. You'd be better, you get more EHP by building a mech, you get more EHP for the rest of your team, Nigeria. Then the TP home, it should actually be taking a death here. He's got Blink available, but he's caught inside the Blood Rage. With that, Nigerian, unfortunately throwing his own life again. So we're going to be seeing some Inland and Storm Rage players just blinking into the enemy team, sitting there, trying to TP out very ambitiously and taking a death. And it looks like Zaruch choosing not to go for the Crimson Guard, now choosing to go for the Blade Mail. Poor item optimization. The only reason why you go for Vanguard on the Bristleback is to go for the Crimson Guard. Crimson Guard is so good on Bristleback. That's the reason why he's suddenly seeing a resurgence in popularity after the TI4 Deathball era. And so Bristleback, you really can't afford not to go for Crimson Guard, especially against the lineup of Seb+Co. Because if you think about, in terms of their overall DPS, the only hero that's actually doing right-click damage is the Bloodseeker, and the Bloodseeker's having 40 of that blocked, especially when you're walking into the incredibly beefy lineup of RNG. He's literally doing no damage, especially with a high amount of armor on heroes like the Ogre Magi, especially since the only other form of damage they have, you've got the right-clicks coming in from the ranged heroes, but they're not going to be doing much. Bubblegum gets dunked to the ground, as Yoshi, through the power of Axe, is able to find another kill. Even going towards the Agnum Scepter would be very effective. An early Agnum Scepter on Axe can be absolutely devastating because it's basically a free level up on your Cutting Blade. So with a level 1 Cutting Blade, it gives you the kill range of 350 instead of 250. With a level 2 Cutting Blade, it amps it up to 450, so it's effectively giving you a level 3 Cutting Blade, even though you've only got the level 2. And of course, if you've got that level 3 Cutting Blade, that 625 kill range is completely absurd. So that means if Hero takes 300 points of damage, he's dead. So 2 right clicks from Rose, and then he just gets dunked by Yoshi. So that lets you just walk around popping off heads, executing targets, and lets you run over these fights. So Rose looks like he's going to be going towards the Agnum Scepter. Really not a big fan of his build, going towards the face into the Yasha. If his team needed damage, I suppose the phase boots can be partially justified if you want to play very aggressively, but since every time you use the Poison Orb you instantly lose the phase movement speed, you might as well go for Treads, especially now that you're choosing to go for the Agnum Scepter. If he was not going for the Agnum Scepter, then phase boots would make a lot of sense, but since the Agnum Scepter gives you 950 range, you don't really need the phase boots mobility. If you see them, they're dead. And so you'd be better off tanking up, especially when you're dealing with a team that has a lot of magic damage and a lot of wombo combo in the mid game. That means that Rose, he can stand his ground and be the retard magnet for his team. So while they're busy smacking on Viper, the rest of his team comes in, especially with Yoshi coming in. So retard magnet, Rose confirmed Dino though, standing his ground with that Ravager. Yoshi takes a death, not able to dunk a target down this time. Rose stands his ground, he gets sighted to the ground though, so that's a huge amount of spree gold going to their hands. Zaruch fleeing for his life, no Crimson Guard. Should be the disjoint, the Blood Ray coming up from him, so he just pops the Illusion Room. Should be the disengage, especially with Og there to provide some assistance. Og bloodlusts him, then just backs away. So he wasn't there, and while that's happening, of course, Nigerian should actually be around there, split pushing that tier 2 tower, especially because you know everyone is in that region. You might as well apply some pressure to the top tier 2, force them to respond, at least get a lot of free damage on that tower. There's no point in playing passively when you know exactly where the enemy supports are. But Nigerian, with that, looks like he's going to be going towards the man style, so we are going to be seeing 3 AM around the 24 to 25 minute mark at the rate that he's farming, just because as far as GPM is concerned, 520 is off to a fantastic start. And Viper, of course, the biggest weakness of Viper is you have to always be ahead in terms of net worth. Once you break even, or once you fall behind, you lose a massive amount of your impact, so it's the reason why you want to close out the game within the first 35 minutes as a Viper, unless if you've got some kind of late game assurance, and the Viper's off to a good start. So in this case, you've got the Viper, you've got the Anti-Mage's late game assurance in conjunction with the Ogre Magi. Ogre Magi and Anti-Mage is completely absurd because the Bloodlust amplifies Anti-Mage's lower base attack point. I believe it's 1.5 for the Anti-Mage. It could actually be 1.55, as I believe they buffed it and they nerfed it again. So I think it's actually 1.5. I haven't double checked. I know Terrorblade is 1.5 as well. Morphling is 1.6 and Juggernaut is 1.4, so it's the reason why you're seeing so many Juggernaut pickups. And so what I mean by base attack point is most heroes have a base attack point of 1.7, and so because Anti-Mage is a lower base attack point, any attack speed steroid, such as the Yasha or the Bloodlust, is going to basically give him a much higher attack speed point than other heroes, so he's going to get more hits in for free, so it increases his efficiency. He's actually choosing to play very aggressively, and is able to dunk down the Jakiro using that Mana Void, and the Mana Void was Berserker's Call, especially against a Necrophos. It's going to be an incredibly important thing to keep in mind. Nigerian, playing very ambitiously there. I suppose he's going to force the tower denial coming up from them. It could be taking a death, but the Rupture from Bubblegum will be enough. Actually, very surprised Bubblegum opted to go for Treads. Not really a big fan of Treads on Bloodseeker, especially with the fact that his movement speed is now 290. I feel like Phase Boots really is the way to go on Bloodseeker, especially because you're a hero that excels on jumping in, killing someone, jumping out, and then jumping back into a fight. Especially with the Thirst Charges, it gives you ridiculous amounts of mobility. So much like a Night Stalker, if you're smacking someone with Treads, it means that you don't have that mobility, especially if you don't have those Thirst Charges. It turns you into a bit of a sitting duck. Og looking to play aggressively against Bubblegum, goes into the Ignite into Fire Blast. Actually, should have saved that Fire Blast for a little bit, but I suppose he wants to burst the target down. Ravage now comes through as well as the Mech Charge. Catches almost the entire team. Dunk comes through, Nigerian in the back line. That force back, and Og could be taking death there. Deathball not going to do enough damage. My documents standing his ground against Rose. Should be to bring him down. One more right click, but never mind. Rose stands his ground with the stick charges. Adobe Reader should be getting dunked to the ground by Yoshi. Rupture's being used on Zarutz. Zarut's gonna eat that blood right like candy. And Bubblegun should be the clean amount. Fucking demo. Able to disengage as Yoshi. Doesn't have enough mana for that follow through dunk. Bubblegun now with that amazing amount of thirst charges. Doing a huge amount of work. Nigerian, he's got the Mana Void. Should smack him. Mana Void, there we go. Says fuck magic and Necrophos gonna get slammed into the ground. Fucking demo, the only survivor for his team, backing himself away into the fountain. Good swing in terms of gold as well as experience, a 2 point, so about a 1k gold swing as well as a 3k EXP swing, but now you're going to lose that tier 2 tower in the mid lane, so you're going to be losing a massive amount of immediate gold, so you give you another 1000 gold, and you're also losing that map control. So as far as the Dire side is concerned, this entire region of the map, the Radiant can't farm anymore. This is their jungle now. They can't really push out as far as the bottom lane's concerned, just because they can be seeing gank attempts coming from that angle or from that angle. And now the mid lane, it's going to be very exposed. So the only way they could really farm is going to be inside their base. As far as map control is concerned, the Radiant side, this is all the map control they have. They've got a few wards placed there, so I suppose the top lane, they've got a little bit more map vision there. But even then, you want to be playing very cautiously at this point. Although that being said, because Seb+Co have been outdrafted by RNG, because the RNG have mid-game and late-game assurance, whereas Seb+Co, their only late-game assurance is going to be the Necrophos. Bloodseeker is actually very mediocre as a carry hero. He relies on getting ahead and staying ahead, much like the Viper. And in this case, he never really got off the ground. He's doing okay for himself, but you keep in mind 2,000 of his net worth is locked inside that hand of Midas, and that Midas, because you're drafting a very fighting lineup, the Midas pickup actually isn't really that great. You would have been better off if you went straight for that Blade Mail. Blade Mail and Bloodseeker is amazing because much like a Clockwork, you force them to target you. You walk in, rupture a target, activate that Blade Mail. They don't really have a choice but to hit you, or they can just sit there and not do anything, in which case you're getting 3 shots in. The Rose looks like he's got that Agnum Scepter now completed, so the Face Boots and the Agnum Scepter, not really a great combination, because you've got such a massive engagement range with the Agnum Scepter Viper Strike. You don't really need the phase mobility, especially since you also went back to Yasha. It doesn't seem like that big of a difference, but Viper, you really want to tank up. Since you're going to be the one absorbing as much fire as possible, you pretty much play as a siege tank. You set up, you force them to have to respond to you. And if they ignore you, you go to town and you blow people to pieces. If they don't, and if they choose to focus you, then the rest of your team says, alright, cool, he's going to be our meat shield, we turn in and clean them out while that's happening, because now you've got the blink counter initiation coming in from Yoshi, who's choosing to go for the Pipe of Insight, so good pickup against the Necrophos, just because you do have such an absurd amount of magic damage coming out from the constant Death Pulse as well as the Reaper Scythe, so you could activate that Pipe to try and keep an ally from being executed by that Reaper Scythe, so that can be quite a critical factor in turning these engagements. You never want to give Necrophos a Reaper Scythe kill, not just because of the actual effect of the Reaper Scythe, but because of the Sadist regen, so it makes it much more difficult for you to prioritize the Necrophos in the fight when he's suddenly healing a massive amount of HP from Sadist. So Rose is going to be standing his ground, he's going to be the siege tank smacking at the enemy tier 3, and so the reason why I call Viper a retard magnet is the way you play Viper is you basically sit there on your own, you start smacking that tower, they have no option but to respond to you. The rest of your team's going to be hanging back. Once you jump the Viper, then Yoshi comes in, calls them, and then you stand and you turn the fight. They're not going to have enough burst damage to kill you, especially since they don't have a repositioning hero like a Batrider or like a Vengeful Spirit, and so they're forced to play the game that you want them to play. And so it's kind of like setting a bag of poop on fire, putting it outside the doorstep of your neighbors, and then ringing the doorbell. They see the bag of poop on fire, they're going to step on it out of instinct. And when they step on it, now they've got shit all over their shoes. So that's what Viper is. He's that bag of poop on fire. He's going to stand there, start smacking around, slow sieging the tier 3. And the rest of his team, they should be backing away, waiting for them to engage on Viper. Because if they don't focus on Viper, then Viper's going to take your tower. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Anti-Mage, he never wants to get caught in the first wave of initiation. He wants to wait until they go on, until they use their CC spells, then you can blink in and play very aggressively. In this case, he could also be slow sieging, because he's got the Aegis, and he's got that man style, so you can actually apply a little bit of split pushing. But it looks like they're going to be backing away, so they're choosing to... They say that we've already got the game in the bag as far as the late game's concerned, we don't have to throw it, we can just continue to play very safe and very conservative, as there's about a 13k gold lead going to the hands of the boys in RNG, and about a 13k EXP lead, so they're putting themselves in a very good position. Of course, the one thing they have to be very conscientious of is if they get wiped in a single fight, they're going to be feeding about 7,000 gold, 7,000, 8,000 gold to the lineup of Seb+Co, and that could potentially throw the game for them, just because you have to respect the Necrophos. Reaper Side flies through, does bring down Zeroach, never mind, Zeroach just barely keeping himself alive, as he did have that Bristleback passive working in his favor. Yoshi, he calls the tower, I'm not too sure how that works, I don't think the tower is going to change its aggro because of that Berserker's Call, maybe it does. Haven't actually checked that interaction before, but Yoshi, suppose he just wanted that armor. Now goes against Bubblegun. Bubblegun could be taking Death Day. Good defensive Ice Path from Adobe. We've now got the Ravage coming through. Good follow through, especially with that Death Ward. Look at the Ghost as my document. Smacking one down to the ground. Anti-Mage going to be coming back to life to Nigerian. Looks again at a bit of a turnaround play. Might look to go for the Mana Void. Unfortunately, Mana Void's fucking damage. Worst target could have gone for. Now throws his life away. Just as I talk about RNG potentially feeding him and getting wiped, they do so. And with that, they feed a drastic amount of gold into their hands. They had a 6k gold swing going to the lineup of Seb+Co and an 8k EXP swing. They lost pretty much the lead that they've generated just because the experience is going to be the real critical factor. Getting the level 2 ultimate online for the Witch Doctor in particular, who picked up level 11 off the back of that, as well as the gold lead. Whilst RNG do have to spare your late game lineup, you do have to be conscious of the Necrophos. Just being able to disable buyback can single-handedly win or lose games. One of the games I saw for the DAC was Mythtrust against DK, 20k gold lead in DK's favor. They got one Reaper Scythe off from Mythtrust, and that pretty much lost them the game, because I believe it was Slark that got Reaper Scythe, who was their one. Slark couldn't buy back, they lost all their Legends of Racks. They pretty much just went for throwing off the back of that, because he's dead for 2 minutes. The rest of his team, there's nothing they could do, so 20k gold lead, what up, not really going to work out too well in that case. In Bubblegum, choosing to go for the harder Tarask, I suppose it makes sense in the fact that he's going to be in the thick of the fight, and he's got the Blade Mail, so when you go for a Blade Mail, you want to actually tank up. But the issue of going for the harder Taraska is, where's your damage really coming from? Because Bloodseeker actually doesn't do that much right-click damage. The reason why I don't really like him in that carry role is the fact that he doesn't really have that effective and built-in steroid. Blood Rage is no longer the get-free damage spell that it used to be, now because it now amplifies incoming damage to you. So the new school of Bloodseeker is you have to play him much more as a almost utility ganking hero, where you could go for items like a Yule Scepter, the Yule Summon into the air, throw down that Blood Right, and you utilize that massive AoE silence to be the setup fights. You no longer have the ability for you to just run in, have an obscene amount of damage from Blood Rage, and just go to Talon full, smacking them. So Bubblegum, very interesting decision making coming up from him. I feel like the harder Tarask is going to punish him just because they're not going to really be focusing the Bloodseeker. The only one's going on the only reason they're going on Bloodseeker is because he's the only one available. Otherwise, you always want to prioritize the Necrophos. Happy, the Necrophos is always going to be the highest priority target on the map. Just because Necrophos' biggest strength is if you don't kill him, he's going to heal the rest of your team, deal a massive amount of damage to the enemy team. So it's like Zeus, if Zeus has also healed your team as well. And then you put that execution power of the Scythe. So if he brings down important targets such as the Anti-Mage, although Anti-Mage is probably the best carry to draft against a Necrophos, because that Magic Shield does drastically increase odds of survivability. Necrophos has to drop him to, I believe, 20% HP to be able to kill him with that Scythe. It might be lower just because the Reaper Scythe does do magic damage, and of course, Anti-Mage has got about 60% base magic resistance from the Mana Shield as well as his base hero resistance, since it's diminishing return. Reaper Scythe went through on Zaruch. Zaruch, very ambitious though, it's fucking damn it, he didn't blink in time. If he blinked earlier, would have gotten that Scythe kill. Roshi now turns around, gets a good 2-map Berserker's Core, but he's going to stand in the ground inside the Macropire. Your Crimson Guard isn't going to help you now, he should be taking a death. Yoshi burns inside the flames. So when it's trying to save his ally, shouldn't have done so. He probably should have just left Zaruch to his own devices. Zaruch should have, if he died, wouldn't be the end of the world. Oh, locked in place with the Rupture, as well as the Blood Ray. Trying to TP himself back out, and he's going to get bursted down with the damage coming out from Bubblegum. So throws coming out from RNG, even though they are quite far ahead, they've actually lost their EXP lead. So only 1,000 EXP lead at this point in the game is absolutely nothing. Monavoid come through, as Anti-Mage says, fuck you, damn, I'm gonna go play very aggressively against you. Blinks on top of him, starts slapping, is able to bring him down. Adobe Reader should be taking a death. He doesn't have a way to deal with the Anti-Mage. Nigerian, he actually blinks in a weird direction. I suppose he wanted to disengage from him for a little while. Maybe look to re-blink engage against Adobe Reader. Adobe disjoints the ice path. Looking to go for a few right clicks. Looks like Rose took a death to Bubblegum in the meanwhile. So the hard Tarask pickup actually doing a fair amount of work. Nigerian getting juked for days. He's actually caught in a very compromising position. If the Reaper Scythe was available, Happy could have set him up there. So even though he wasn't in kill range, he could have set up for Bubblegum to walk in and get in a few right clicks. Might have been enough damage for him to kill off the Anti-Mage. And Anti-Mage can't afford to get Scythe. He's the highest priority Scythe target as far as Seb+Co are concerned. And as far as net worth, he's the only one that's actually ahead. Both Bubblegum and the Necrophos, so the Greeds and the Midas pickup, starting to work out just because they haven't been able to close out the game. And the nice thing about the Midas is if you think a game is going to go late, picking up a Midas that early on does give you that late game assurance. The reason why some teams like to pick up and hand the Midas on heroes like Viper. Since Viper's a hero that tapers off, if he doesn't get ahead in terms of net worth, picking up a hand of minus on them, especially if you get a massive amount of spree gold or you win a fight, you suddenly find yourself with 2,000 gold, does give you that late game insurance. So it means that if the game does go late, you're at least going to have enough net worth that you can go blow for blow, and you should be able to break even in terms of gold and net worth. So in terms of GPM, Anti-Mage about 590, so it's off to a pretty good start in terms of last hit, smacking down a massive amount of creeps. Yoshi, because he doesn't have that Blade Mail pickup is really messing him up in these fights, because there's so much uncontrolled AoE on Seb+Co, you're just throwing away free damage that you could have otherwise been dealing, especially since but you don't want to Blade Mail when you Berserker call a target, you want to Blade Mail afterwards, ideally, Or you want a Blade Mail so that if they throw down Macropie, they're going to be sitting there and burning inside the flames. Yoshi looking to play aggressively against my documents. Should be to get that Berserker's Call. My documents could be taking a death there, but Happy comes in from the side. Hit, good defensive Ice Path from the Adobe Reader. And now we've got to look at it go. Death will be dropped to Zeruchi, and Yoshi should be taking a death there. Where are your dunks now? My document saying, sorry, file. You looked for my mercy file not found. Cuts him down with that death ward. And Og, all he can really do is wall himself away. We've got a Reaper Scythe with the Refresher Orb now being picked up by Happy. So he's got that double Agnum Scepter Reaper Scythe. Very powerful build for the Necrophos. It gives you the ability to basically execute 2 targets. If he executes, say, the Anti-Mage of the Scythe and Rose, that's going to be game. RNG don't have a response to this. You don't have buyback. You don't have... You're dead for about 90 seconds at this point. It might actually be longer, just because Anti-Mage is such a high level. And the rest of your team, they can't fight without the Viper and without the Anti-Mage. Viper is actually dealing a substantial amount of damage, because he went for this damage-heavy build. Looks like he's going towards the Assault Cuirass. I love the Assault Cuirass pickup coming up from Viper. It gives you everything you really need. Viper just doesn't have that much armor to work with. Even though he's an Agi hero, his Agi growth is fairly mediocre. And it gives you that attack speed, as well as the fact that every time you pick up an Assault Cuirass, it's a plus 10 armor net worth swing into your team's hand, so it means the enemy team, they're forced to pick up an AC of their own, otherwise they're always going to be fighting at a negative 10 penalty. That doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but the armor does stack up quite heavily, especially when you consider Seb+Co. Their magic damage at this point is going to be partially mitigated by the Pipe, by the Corrosive Skin, and by the Magic Shield of Anti-Mage. And so their only real damage, and the only effective way to deal with the Viper and the Anti-Mage is going to be physical right-clicks. And so Viper getting incredibly tanky with that Soul Cuirass, it basically neutralizes a lot of damage coming out from Seb+Co. I mean, ideally, Bristleback should be the one going towards the Assault Cuirass, and the Viper should be going towards something like a Mantis Style into maybe something like an MKB to go for that, if you wanted to go for that damage route. But because Bristleback's opted to go for the Blade Melt instead, and now choosing to go for what appears to be a BKB, could also be a Heaven's Halberd, but the BKB would be a superior pickup against Seb+Co, in which case the Blade Melt's a little bit wasted, so very interesting optimization coming out from Bristleback. This is what I mean when I talk about item efficiency. Because Bristleback didn't go for the Crimson Guard early on, had he had that at around the 20-minute mark, which he would have, could have actually made a dramatic impact as far as the state of the game is concerned. But Seb+Co, even though as far as the drafting stage is concerned, they went for a bit of an unconventional one-position carry. It's Bloodseeker. Bubblegum, he's been making it work because you've got that Necrophos. Necrophos is going to be the decisive factor in this game. It's the reason why a lot of teams ban Necrophos. He just makes the game a coin toss. If you misplay once and you get Reaper Scythe, especially around the 30 to 40 minute mark, you can instantly lose the game. It makes it very frustrating to play against a Necrophos, and so a lot of teams, they'd just rather ban him out and not deal with it. Oh, gonna be the lone man standing. He's gonna be very cautious though, just because of fucking Dammer blinks on top of him. Misses the Yank Smash, Blood Right, as well as the Ice Path also whiffing. But they are gonna zone him out. That should be enough pressure for them to be able to take that tier 2 tower. But TP response coming through is Anti-Mage, and so Rose and Nigerian look to do a little bit of split pushing. Nigerian playing very aggressively against my documents. He doesn't have the Cranium Bash available, so a bit of a misplay coming up from him, choosing to go straight for the Butterfly. The Cranium Bash is a very powerful pickup on Anti-Mage after the Mana Cell, because it lets you actually stick to targets. Anti-Mage, while he's got that Blink, he actually doesn't stick to targets too well, because they're always going to be running away from you, so they're going to force you to rely on Blink to chase targets down. Getting that Cranium Basher means you also have the late game luxury option of going towards that Cranium Basher. Nigerian actually hasn't been activating his Mana Style at all. He could have been using that to take down that rack. Now could be taking a death. He's not too careful. Rupture's been using Nigerian. Stands the ground against Happy at fucking damage. He should be using his rack to bring him down. Nigerian's gonna be taking a death. That Reaper Scythe in the turn around is coming out. It's Happy. He actually doesn't use that Reaper Scythe. The massive misplay coming up from him. That's a 105-second death for him. He's using it on Rose. He isn't really going to be giving a damn. So Happy, a bit questionable with these Reaper Scythe plays. Especially since he went for the Refresher Orb. Going for a Refresher Orb indicates that you want to execute targets with that Scythe Yoshi. Speaking of execute, goes against Bubblegum, but Bubblegum, a lot more HP than you've got Dunk Power. He's going to be fleeing for his life now. So misplays on misplays. If you're going for the Agnum Scepter and the Refresher Orb, it implies you're going to be good enough to actually either execute a target, or at least you got to check their HP before you decide to execute them. With the Reaper Scythe from Necrophos, it's actually a lot easier than the Culling Blade from Axe. Because if it's below 40% HP, they're dead. That's all you have to keep in mind. 40% HP, they're dead. Against the Viper and the Anti-Mage. Against Viper, 30% HP, he's dead. Anti-Mage, 20% HP, he's dead. So you have to drop him below 20% HP in the time that the Scythe flies out towards him. So that gives you that 1.5 second window. So that means that when you Scythe them, scream at your team. Say, focus him, for the love of God, focus him. We have to Scythe them down. Had they Scythed down the Anti-Mage, they could have actually gone for Rax, and there's nothing RNG could have done to stop them. They had Ravage up. They had the Macropie, they had Bubblegum, who's done the ball under control. He's actually going to reach the point where he'll develop his own gravitational mass. As far as mass is concerned, look at how tanky that son of a bitch is, especially with that Blade Mail. He could go toe-to-toe against the Anti-Mage, so the Blade Mail does do a lot of work, just because it reflects pure damage, and Anti-Mage isn't going towards the BKB anytime soon. Nigerian, does pick out that Butterfly, he really needs that Cranium Basher. He needs a way to win a man fight and lock and stick to targets, especially the Necrophos. So we are going to be seeing a pause come out once again as one of the players is having some lag issues in terms of experience. 6k EXP lead now going to Seb+Co. Seb+Co, they've put themselves in a very decisive position. Even though the anti-mage still has more net worth, he's the only one that really has a lot of farm in his team. The rest of his team, Rose, he's starting to fall behind because he doesn't have that inbuilt farming mechanism. And this is the critical factor when you draft a Viper, because Viper doesn't have a way to find farm. You want to make sure that you're going to close out the game early on, or that the Viper's going to be able to find so many kills and create so much space that you've got that late game assurance. In this case, the anti-mage, it's going to be a case of 4 protect 1 for RNG, because Bristleback, he's far past his use by date, so he's spoiled milk at this point. They can choose to ignore Bristleback, kill the rest of his team, then turn around and pick him off. So it makes it very easy for the boys in Seb+Co to deal with, especially because you've got Necrophos is a great way to deal with the annoyance of the Bristleback, just because you've got that Reaper Scythe. And so usually you have to prioritize a lot and expend a lot of resources to kill Bristleback. In this case, you just throw a Scythe at them once he's below 40% HP. As long as you hit him in the face and not at the back, he's dead. So fucking Demo looks like he's going towards the Refresher Orb. A thing you have to keep in mind when you go for the Refresher Orb out route is you have to be very conscientious of your mana usage. Or you actually just barely have enough mana to beat a combo. And that's if you use both Arcane Boots. You Arcane Boots after the first Ravage, refresh, activate Arcane Boots again, and then you have enough mana to beat a double Ravage. Otherwise, if you don't have another mana pickup, you could actually choose to forego the third point in Ravage, and choose to stick with level 2 Ravage and go for point stats instead. That's what some pro players do when they realize that it's going to be too risky, because you're adding a few actions that you have to add for your combo, and of course the weakness in going for that level 3 Ravage with the Refresher Orb, it turns you into a 2-trick pony. All you're going to do that fight is Ravage and then Ravage again. You're not going to be throwing out an Anchor Smash, which is actually quite powerful at dealing with the Viper and the Anti-Mage. You're not going to be using Gush, which actually does amplify damage by a fair amount. And since Titan actually does do a fair amount of damage with Anchor Smash just because it has such a low cooldown, it is a huge trade-off. So if you can get that fantastic 4-5 hero Ravage, then of course by all means it's justified, but otherwise, going for 2 points of Ravage gives you a bit more flexibility. So it means you can actually do things outside of just throwing tentacles everywhere, praising Cthulhu. So Nigerian looks like he's got that Aegis the Immortal now picked up on him. Should probably look to sell his Treads to pick up Boots of Travel. So once that Aegis the Immortal expires, usually you want to go for a harder Tarrasque on the anti-mage because it lets you dart in and out of a fight. In this case, because you're dealing with the Necrophos who you want to prioritize and pick off, you need that Cranium Basher, you need that Abyssal Blade. There's no ifs, buts, or coconuts about it. Without the Cranium Basher, anti-mage is going to get out-carried. He's going to get kited. He's actually playing incredibly ambitiously. We're seeing some Illidan Storm Range level blinks against the entire enemy team. Happy, Dunk's going to come through from Yoshi. Should be enough to bring him down. Here comes a Ravage from Bucket Damage. Going to be able to catch it. The other heroes the Ravage again. Uses the Arcane Boots, catches out 3 or 4 heroes. Deathball now bouncing back and forth between Zaruch and Rose. Zaruch, he's doing literally nothing, as well as Og, both taking death. Yoshi fleeing for his life. Nigerian with the Edge of the Immortal. Dunk's down 1 from Mana Void. Now Bubblegum pops the Blade Mail, breaks the edges. Good recognition for Bubblegum. When you see those blades pop up, you don't want to do anything just because you're going to be dealing more damage to yourself. Nigerian's going to be taking death and Happy. There we go. This is the scythe he needed. That's game, set, and match for Seb+Co. RNG, all they have to do now is push through mid, take tier 4s, and go for a Hail Mary push. That's all they have to do to win this game. Rose, he can buy back with Viper at this point. They have a response for him. They've got the Reaper Scythe coming online for the Necrophos. They've got the Bloodseekers with the Rupture to lock it in place. They should be able to close out the game, or at least take a set of racks before the anti-mage comes back online. Seb+Co have pretty much put themselves into the lead, and it's very difficult for RNG to recover from this point, because if you have a look in terms of support efficiency, Ogre, he's the only spawn in his team, doesn't have 4 staff, doesn't have Yules, doesn't have Blink, doesn't even have the Agnum Scepter. So he's going to be a non-entity in these fights. You need the Agnum Scepter on the Ogre because it gives you that 600 range Fire Blast. Unrefined Fire Blast is still 600 range. The regular Fire Blast is 475. By the time you get close to actually Fire Blast someone, you're putting yourself in a very precarious position, especially because you have to dance around that Blood Rite, especially because you have to dance around the Ravage coming up from Tidehunter. So Ogre's become a complete non-entity. His sole job at this point is just to bloodlust the anti-mage. Looks like Seb+Co, they're kind of squandering their advantage here. They're actually choosing to play a little bit more cautious, go for some split push instead. They could get punished if they're not too careful. Zaruch, that being said, the Bristleback, he's just saying pay attention to me. He's actually choosing to go for the Heaven's Halberd. Bit of a interesting item optimization. It's not a bad pickup, but because most of the damage coming out from Seb+Co that you have to be wary of is going to be the magic damage coming through. Bubblegum's actually going to get executed by Yoshi. Rose is actually able to bring him down. Yoshi actually should have dunked him there to give yourself that further mobility so you could choose to chase down other targets. So even though I understood what he was trying to do there, he wanted to pick off another target as well, but you're going to be better off dunking him and then using that additional mobility to chase down other targets. It's the reason why you draft Axe, for that dunk power. But they do lose 1 tier 2 tower, so it looks like Necrophos split push. He's actually starting to claw ahead in terms of net worth. Bloodseeker, Bubblegum, a hand of minus, ensuring that he's able to maintain some kind of parity with the anti-mage. He's actually only 14 behind as far as GPM is concerned. So Bubblegum off to a pretty good start as far as net worth. Happy. Will be interesting to see what he chooses to go for next. Blink Dagger would be very powerful in Necrophos, because it gives you that flexibility. Because it means that you no longer have to be anywhere near your team. You can hang back, wait for RNG to initiate against somebody else, then you here comes fucking Damo with that double Ravage, then you blink in, then you throw out that Reaper Scythe. It guarantees you to land those pinpoint Reaper Scythes. That's pretty much how Seb+Co win this game. Because they've invested so heavily into the Reaper Scythe lag, Yoshi should be able to bring down my documents. My documents, counter healings for days. Yoshi dunks down one. My documents fleeing for his life. The defensive ice path from Adobe Reader should be the catch out. Yoshi locks him in place, but Rose going ham. In the meanwhile, Reaper Scythe comes up from Happy, unable to bring down Rose. Could have waited a little bit. He really has to get better with landing those Reaper Scythes, just because that's another critical kill. Had they scythed the Viper, that would have been a window for them to be able to push and group up as 5. Yoshi should be taking a death there. Happy might decide to refresh and use that Reaper Scythe to bring him down. Probably not going to be worth it, especially since Nigerian joins the fray. Nigerian going to go ham against Adobe, and Adobe gets burned to the ground. He actually heals up a illusion by accident. Happy could be taking a death. Happy can afford to die here. He's got buyback available. Going to be forced to buyback. Nigerian's going to apply some split pushing pressure and try maybe look to take the bottom center rack. Bubblegun runs in. Zaruchi pops that blade mail as well as the Crimson Gun. Bubblegun now moving incredibly quickly, so he's going to be activating that flash movement speed. Nigerian standing his ground. He doesn't have the Heart of Tarrasque, and this is the reason why Heart tends to be the preferred pickup over Butterfly, is it gives you the ability to be able to disengage and re-engage. Nigerian at this point, he's got that lifesteal, but he just walks to the blood rate. And Bubblegun, if he had Rupture available, that would be one dead anti-mage. Disarm now coming through from Zaruch, pushing the Bubblegun back, but they can look to play very aggressively against this. They just don't want to use the buyback coming out from Necrophos. Looks like he got buyback available. Oh, never mind, he actually bought back earlier, so he doesn't have that available. The RNG, they've got that window, but because they don't have that heart, if they had that heart, you could apply some slow push. With the anti-mage being the back off, he'd be back to full at this point, so he could choose to continue to apply some pressure, force him to respond to him, because he doesn't have that heart, because he went for the butterfly instead. Some interesting optimization coming out from the anti-mage. Personally, not a big fan of the anti-mage. If he went for the cranium bash and then went butterfly, would make sense, but because he just doesn't have that cranium bash, doesn't have a way to lock people in place. Adobe could be taking a death there, but the blood rate's going to catch up. Yoshi will at least force them back. Og throws at the ignite, stands the crack, gets caught by that Ravage. He should be taking a death with Bubblegun to smack him to the ground. Fucking demo. One more right click from the anti-mage will burn off the mana pool that he needs to get that secondary Ravage off. But looks like Yoshi standing his ground, should be to dunk down one secondary Ravage, catches out Nigerian, and a double kill coming up from Bubblegun. Looks like Yoshi's also going to be taking a death. Rose shows up late to the party, says, hey guys, I bought some alcohol, bought some malt liquor with you. Bubblegun going to be fleeing for his life. Rose caught with that blood right silence, and my Seb+Co should be able to tone this. Rose Bubblegum's gonna flee for his life, gonna get some regen going, and then maybe look to turn around as Rose goes against my documents, but he's got the Ghost Scepter coming up cooldown in a few seconds. While that's happening, Nigerian does take down the tower. He actually bought back and went for Boots of Travel, so good recognition coming up from Nigerian. Just because when you're playing against Necrophos, you can be very judicious with your Reaper Scythe. Reaper Scythe comes out, catches out Rose, finally lands a good Reaper Scythe on him. Another Reaper Scythe catches out Zaruch, so Happy instantly finds 2. And now the only one that's left is the Anti-Mage. That could be enough momentum for them to look to go for a push of their own. Anti-Mage needs the rest of his team to set up for him. And now you don't have Zaruch and you don't have Rose. They can wait until Jakiro comes back to life, go ahead and barrel down through the mid lane. They need to play aggressively every time they get these scythe pick-offs. They're constantly playing very passively, and if you play passively against the anti-mage, it doesn't matter how far ahead you are. Anti-mage is eventually going to split push you down, just because Seb+Co, they don't have that much pushing power. They've got a lot of sustain coming in from the Necrophos, so that's why when they do get a kill, especially if they get a scythe kill on a high priority target, you need to be able to capitalize on that. If you don't capitalize on that, then you're squandering the advantage of the Necrophos, especially because you've just scythed down 2 high priority targets. 2 of the 3 cores of RNG have just been scythed into the ground. The only ones left is Nigerian, so I suppose you want to be wary of the split push. But you could assign a hero to defend against split push, maybe have people pick up Boots of Travels or pick up TPs. Especially in Bubblegun's case, he should not be walking around with that Javelin. Drop the Javelin in your stash, pick up the TP scroll. TP save lives, especially in this kind of precarious situation when you're dealing with a split push coming in from Nigerian. Nigerian really, if he wants to go for the split pushing route and doesn't want to fight at all, should go for the Heart of Tarrasque. Otherwise, you should really look to go for the Abyssal Blade. He needs a way to be the man fight against the Bloodseeker, and Bloodseeker then be forced to go towards the MKB just because you got the Butterfly and the Anti-Mage. Once that MKB comes online, Bubblegun should be able to smack down the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage really doesn't have a way to fight against them, especially with the Blade Mail, the Heart, and the Butterfly also coming out from him. So Nigeria going to be checking Roshan. Roshan won't be up for, I believe, another 2 minutes. Last I checked, it looks like both teams are playing very passively. And Seb+Co, this is a massive mistake coming up from them. You can't afford to rest on your laurels, especially when you prioritize and execute such a high priority target. It does give a massive advantage towards RNG, because if the game goes late, Anti-Mage is eventually going to split push and apply that pressure, because Seb+Co, they don't really have a way to split push on their own. Since Anti-Mage with their man style, especially with the amount of damage that he stacked up with the Butterfly, should be able to deal a massive amount of damage to towers. He could constantly just dodge fights, play the same way a Terry Blade will play, and just every now and then nibble away at your objectives, nibble at your tier 3 other set of racks, and make it very difficult for you to leave your base, because the lineup of Seb+Co, they're built around fighting as a unit of 5, whereas RNG, they also have that. They fight very well as 5, especially the Bristleback, but at the same time, they're not dependent on it. You've got Anti-Mage who can do his own thing. So Anti-Mage can just walk around, smacking creeps and going PvE the entire game, and they still can win just off the back of that. This is why in pub games, Anti-Mage tends to be such a commonly picked hero, because if you're good with the Anti-Mage, if the enemy team isn't playing aggressively or aren't coordinated to punish your mistakes, eventually if the game goes late, much like picking up a Nature's Prophet, you intrinsically and fundamentally have quite a significant advantage just in terms of the macro and strategic front, because you can continually split push. Looks like Nigerian smokes himself to guarantee him being able to go for some objectives, maybe looking to go for a pick off his bubblegum, breaks the smoke. Nigerian, looking to play very aggressively, Fireblast boom comes through, Yoshi catches out happy with bubblegum, Ravage comes through, fucking damn him, catches out 4, he's going to turn through the retaliatory Ravage, catches out the entire enemy team, Og's going to be taking a death there, so does Yoshi, Resolution fleeing for his life, could be taking a death to Deathwolf to turn, Nigerian's going to be throwing his own life away, he gets Scythe, this is game, set, and match, this is exactly what they need. It looks like the Scythe actually didn't catch him. How did the Anti-Mage not die? Oh no, never mind, it did catch him, my UI's just bugged. So yeah, he's dead for 140 seconds. This is going to be game for Seb+Co. All they have to do is group up and push. I've been saying this is game for Seb+Co about 3 or 4 times now, because every time this happens, they tend not to push. You've got everything you need. There's literally nothing they could do. Run through the mid lane, take a set of racks, take all the racks, you could do everything. Just group up as 5 and push the damn tower. RNG, the only hero that threatens you is the Anti-Mage, and Nigerian, he's dead. He's gone back to Nigeria for the next 2 minutes. The only hero that could potentially be an issue, just because Viper can't do anything to Necrophos. Necrophos at this point is basically Jesus. He's going to scythe you, he's going to avenge his fallen comrades, Adobe Reader. He's going to be cannon fodder for the Viper. But of course, he's a 5 position support. It doesn't really matter if the Jakiro dies. All that matters is that you pick off their supports and their core heroes. Og, he's a complete non-entity. He doesn't have the ability to get up close to Fireblast somebody, because if he does, he's walking into Ravage, he's walking into Blood, right? It's very difficult for him to really do anything other than to get smacked around. Even if he walks in to throw out that Ignite, fucking Damo can actually blink on top of him, play very aggressively, Bubblegun. There we go. This is what Seb+Co needs to have done about 5 minutes ago. Finally coming through, Yoshi. Gonna be the hero that Dire Side deserves. Maybe looking to go for some crazy Berserker Call plays. Actually, he could go for a Berserker Call. He could throw his own life away just to delay the push, because otherwise, Seb+Co, they could look to go for other sets of racks. They're actually choosing just to go for tier 4s. It's a very ballsy play coming out from them. Usually going for more sets of racks is going to be a safer play. Fucking Damo, he's going to get hit by that Viper Strike. He doesn't have that Ravage available. So this could be a slight window of opportunity going to the hands of RNG. They've got 50 seconds to try to end the game. Fortification is down, and looks like Seb+Co off the back of some good side plays. Yoshi now finally decides to Berserker's Call in. He's going to be taking a death though, so Deathwolf cleans him out. Og taking a death there is going to be forced back. The Ruptures keeps him pinned in place. Saying, okay, that's timeout for you, and they're just gonna start smacking the Ancients. That's all they have to do is smack the Ancients, ignore everything else, disregard Og, who's just been left there, he's gonna be taking his side. So now he's gonna be dead for 90 seconds, and there we go, GG well played coming through, all off the back of Happy's side. So, questionable sides coming out from him, but he finally was able to seal the deal. This is why Necrophos is banned. Because even if you're ahead, even if you've got the superior late game lineup, you eat one side to the face on the core hero, and all of a sudden you just lose the game. So Seb+Co, they could have actually won the game about 5 minutes ago. But, I mean, I suppose better safe than sorry. They were able to pull through in the end. Excellent performance coming out from them. Nigerian, poor item optimization coming out from RNG. They actually had the superior draft, all things considered, just because the Bloodseeker is a very awkward pick. Utilized as a safe lane carry. Yoshi got up to a fantastic start, but because he chose to go for the Pipe of Insight before doubling, and the Vanguard especially is the item. That's basically 2,000 gold down the drain. Had he opted to go for the Blade Mail into the Pipe, that would have been much more worthwhile, or Blade Mail into the Aghanim Scepter would have given a lot of mid-game fight that they needed. Viper, no mech on coming out from the lineup of RNG. When you consider the amount of shared teamfight capacity you have with all these durable core heroes, you really need a mech. Viper going for Phase Boots and then going for the Aghanim Scepter really doesn't give you much. The Phase Boots is only as a pickup if you're against a highly mobile team and you don't think you're going to be getting the Aghanim Scepter anytime soon because you're constantly getting in these scrapping fights, or if you're going to be the only form of damage that your team. Even then, Treads is usually superior just because he picked up the Yasha. The Yasha and the Phase Boot's a little bit overkill, because every time you throw out that Poison Orb, you break the Phase movement speed, so there's no point in going for it. Coming up from the Anti-Mage, the lack of heart meant that he couldn't split push effectively, the lack of Cranium Basher meant he couldn't man fight. So really, all he was good for was picking up supports, and the supports, they're already dead. There's no point in building items to kill supports. You could already kill the supports to begin with. You want to build items that deal with their core heroes, particularly Necrophos. Had he picked up an Abyssal Blade and or something like a BKB, the Abyssal Blade. He could pop BKB, blink on top of Necrophos, stun him, kill Necrophos. He could eat both Ravages and not really give a damn. Fucking Damon's gonna be sitting there looking a little bit silly, and then Anti-Mage can pull out control and kill everybody else. So that looks like that's gonna be it for round number 1. We're gonna be taking a quick break, and we should be right back for round 2.